Welcome to the FC Buffalo Show on WBNY. I am Ben Sujimoto, stepping in for Joe DiBiase. I do the play-by-play for the FC Buffalo game, so if my name rings a bell, that's probably where. No Russ Andolina tonight either, but we do have a special guest here at WBNY. Joining us tonight is FC Buffalo co-owner Scott Fauenhofer. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Hey Ben, how are you? Thanks for having me.
No problem. You were with FC Buffalo this weekend, traveling to Michigan on
Sure was.
the second longest road trip of the year, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I think so.
Actually saved some time cutting through Canada, but it's old hat to us now. We got it down.
So it was a 3-1 win for FC Buffalo. Getting 3 points on the road at any occasion is pretty outstanding. In a lot of cases, the goal is to get one. You're not necessarily traveling with the strongest squad and so forth, but this was a terrific result.
Well, the goal is always to get 3 points. One is nice, but three is what we're always shooting for. Yeah, it was a great result. Great game, really fascinating game. Interesting to watch. A lot of players are just, really finding their form, finding their feet mid-season. That's exactly what we needed. But, great game, great team result, well-traveled, and happy to be home.
FC Buffalo fans can watch the game on Vimeo now. I saw the link was posted, and
Yep.
You can watch the game in its entirety. But FC Buffalo and the Michigan Stars, with FC Buffalo winning 3-1. So FC Buffalo's record on the season right now is 2 wins, 1 loss, and 3 draws, and we're halfway through the season now.
Yep,
And-
6 games through.
Yep, and I didn't reference the tie against Binghamton, but that it's more of a derby than it is anything else.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do that, you can throw in the loss to the Rhinos, too. I mean, the guys are getting a lot of minutes this year, and a lot of players are getting an opportunity to come in and show what they got. So, yeah, a lot of games being played, and, a few more possibly to be announced, but we'll see about that.
So, Scott, I want to talk some about the game, just because a lot of FC Buffalo fans haven't been able to see it, and they obviously follow the updates on Twitter.
Sure.
And, by the way, very good job for you guys on the Twitter account. It's real enjoyable to monitor a game as it goes along just by reading the tweets, because while there's a lot more streaming options now, it's not quite as, you can definitely not see every single game, so it's awesome to have those frequent updates.
We pride ourselves on the social media outlet. Nick Mendola does a great job updating regularly. We try to get more video on there as much as we can with our cell phones, but it's tough to say, battery life is only so much. But it's tough to grab a goal scoring opportunity or a great save opportunity. But we pride ourselves on being one of the better teams in our league. And, we know there's a very passionate market here in Buffalo, and our fans do care about us when they go on the road and they want to know what happens. So it's really up to us to provide that content and, make sure it's as good as possible.
Keeping tabs on the team even before the game on Saturday, we saw some of the guys who were making the trip just through some of their own updates. And we saw Brian Knapp, and we saw Chris Walter, and we saw Kendall McFadden, 3 guys who are longtime FC Buffalo players who it must be great to see them so committed that even though they're not necessarily playing for future college careers or playing to get really sharp for the fall, they're still making this long road trip. And you've had veterans in the past who haven't necessarily done that, So this is a real success story to have these guys making such an important road trip for you.
It really is. It's a few things. It's the 3 guys you mentioned. I know they all love the program. It's a pride for the team, and it's a pride for the city. Brian Knapp is born and raised in Syracuse, but he's a Buffalo guy through and through. And Chris and Kendall are both Buffalo guys, and representing the crest and representing the city is something that I know means a lot to them. So having all 3 of them healthy and in good form, ready to go, it's important. It just makes our team that much better.
Speaking of Kendall, he got you guys on the board for a 1-0 lead, and Kendall in a position where he's not super familiar with FC Buffalo. I know he's played forward for the Rochester Rhinos. He won a USL Player of the Week shortly after signing a pro deal there in the past. But he got the start up top. How much can you tell me about sort of what went into that, moving Kendall from his usual center back role up top as a forward?
It was an opportunity the coach has been exploring in training for a while. Kendall shined at Medaille College as a forward, and like you said, he had a couple of years at the USL level with the Rochester Rhinos. He was, pretty dynamic at our level. He's such a fantastic athlete. He can probably play any position on the field. He's a fantastic center back, and one of the reasons that we like him at center back is he's not going to get beat over the top very much. He's got fantastic pace, so he can recover. He's a good tackler. He's a good passer out of the back. But one of his top priorities, one of his top, I don't know, how do I want to say, skill set, capabilities.
Attributes, yeah.
Attributes, that's a better word, thank you, is he's a fantastic organizer of the team. Michigan Stars didn't really have a lot of people, so you could hear everything that was going on they didn't have a lot of people in the stands. So you could hear everything that was going on the pitch. And one of the things that you notice is that Kendall's just always talking, not yelling at his teammates, but always talking to his teammates. Hey, make sure you're here. Come this way, shift this way. And it's like just that sort of veteran leadership is so important. And just to talk about his goal for a second, that was such a team goal. Started on the right-hand side with Julian Akizi tracking down a ball. Kevin Kapik on the overlap, getting him involved. Finding Dylan McVeigh in an open spot. Dylan brought 2 defenders with his fake shot, and then he slotted over to Kendall, and the goalkeeper was nowhere in sight. So it was just fantastic kind of veteran leadership. The new guys, the young guys making plays, with Kendall there to calm, cool, icy finish. So
we saw against Erie how FC Buffalo conceded in the first, I think it was the 5th minute when Danny Deacon struck on a PK. Mm-hmm. How much of Coach Brendan Murphy's message this week was to start strong and to really push forward and get on the board first, so you're not chasing a game like you were against Erie?
That's I think that's a message every week. We always want to come out and dominate the first 5-10 minutes of the half and the last 5-10 minutes of the half. But we knew just going into this game, and every game, it's a conversation that we've always had, is don't put ourselves in those bad positions. Make the smart plays so that we avoid having to chase the other team or being put in a bad position. And also, we can't be in a spot where we play against the other team and the referees. So it's just got to be a little bit more heads up. And the guys did a great job this weekend of identifying that.
The Stars answered back, I believe, in the 69th minute, and it had to be a little bit of a deflating goal because knowing you've protected this lead for quite a while, and then you see, I think it was Alexander Serwaka who scored for Michigan, a guy who's, I think that's his 3rd goal this year. I think he's their leading scorer. What was to talk about that stretch between McFadden's goal and Serwaka's equalizer? Were there a lot of chances going one way? Was the possession a certain way? So
to end the first half, we held the majority of the ball. We had a few opportunities, but nothing that was really, you could say, okay, we should have scored there. But I got to give full marks to Andrew Coughlin. Starting the second half, he made 3 huge saves, including one point-blank range that he just, Michigan should have tied right there, and Andrew pulled up trees. I mean, he had a fantastic game. But yeah, in the first 15 minutes of the second half, Andrew just stood on his head. He was unlucky because he came close to getting a hand on that one, but that was just a defensive breakdown that, we could have done better with, where we turned the ball over. There's a little miscommunication, but, that happens. The guys responded quickly, though. Kevin had that individual run and goal as one of the highlights of the year, but, that's what we expect out of the guys. That road trip to Indianapolis, they came back from both games down 2-0 to tie 2-2. And we feel like those 2 games that we should have won, but, showed a lot of grit, a lot of tenacity for the boys to come back and just get 1 point out of both those games from being down 2 goals. And we know our boys have that in the locker. We know that they've got the strength to come back and win any game, but, to give up a disappointing goal, especially when Michigan went down to 10 men, they responded exactly how they needed to.
Can you explain the red card? Was it it was hard to see too much of it from Twitter to understand what happened.
So there's a weird sequence in the first half, and forgive me, I can't remember the Michigan Stars player's name, but he got fouled. The referee blew the whistle, and after the whistle, because the play was still evolving around him, Eric Dahl came past him, and for whatever reason, when the play was blown dead, he decided to just take a swipe at Eric Dahl. So he had the foul, swiped at Dahl, got a yellow card for that. Second half, a ball's bouncing through the midfield. Eric has his back to the play. He comes to take it down with his chest, and the guy just ran right through his back. So second yellow, straight red. Totally deserved, but it is what it is.
It almost sounds like the first challenge in the first half was borderline red-worthy.
It could have been, but it was just one of those flare temper moments. What happens in the game. So.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk about that Kevin Kapik goal because I know the FC Buffalo social media accounts have been really pushing that as a Sports Center top 10, and I don't think it actually happened, but it was one of those things where, the terms are thrown around like worldy and like just like a moment of brilliance from Kevin Kapik, a guy who's been very solid for you guys this year at right back, but this is one of the first times where he's really been able to get forward and put his stamp on the game offensively.
We know that he has that ability to do that because we see him do it all the time in training. One of the things that Coach Murphy and Coach Rhodes are always encourage those outside backs to do is get forward, make those overlapping runs, really dominate the midfield, let our wide players tuck inside a little bit more while the fullbacks get going, and Kevin just saw the opportunity. He knew that the guy was peeling off. Brian Knapp did a fantastic job of making a decoy run and having another guy go out to him, which opened up the center of the box, and he just cut in. It's a fantastic shot. And, Kevin can play the left side. He can play the right side. And that particular time, he's playing left back, so he's cutting in on his preferred right foot. Perfect mix. You can't beat it. It was a great goal.
Heading into the season, the three of the names, just given their backgrounds, they were, I think, two of the three are MLS Academy products that came in from Marist. We're talking about Eric Dahl, Dylan McVeigh, and Kevin Kapik. Kapik's grew up in the Red Bull Academy, I believe.
Yep.
And these are probably, as far as looking outside of the Big Four and the local players, these are probably three of the biggest names that we've brought, or that you guys have brought to FC Buffalo in the program's history. Can you talk about how they are as people and how they've assimilated and how, I guess, they've made a difference on the pitch as well?
We were lucky to get those guys through a relationship that our assistant coach, Bobby Roach, has. He's very familiar with the Marist head coach, Matt Vigiano. Bobby scouted a lot of games this summer, and he asked those guys, Coach Vigiano said, hey, here's the three guys that, we really like from your team. Do you think they'd be interested? And they were very receptive to it. So, I agree with you. It's a great pull. We're lucky to have them. And all three of them are great guys, too. On road trips especially, you get a chance to sit down and talk with them and really meet them as individuals. And they like being here. I think they're enjoying their time in Buffalo. But solid guys, solid players. We're just really happy to have them.
That's and I want to talk a little bit more about McVeigh, because McVeigh has also played a pretty pivotal role, and he's been a guy who's just stepped right in and been very solid as a number 6, a defensive midfield type. What has he brought to the program?
A lot of grit. Fantastic passer of the ball. He's going to win a lot of headers. He's going to win a lot of second balls, and when he gets that second ball, it's always distributed. His passing accuracy, not that we've kept count or had a chance to go back and actually look at the stats, but it's got to be in the, the 90-95% area, because he just does not give the ball away. He's got the ability to score a goal here or there. He came close in the Michigan game. I know he got the pivotal goal against Detroit City FC. So he brings a lot, and the style of play that our coaches want to play, we're just so deep in that area. So guys can get forward, and there's always going to be guys covering. When the fullbacks get going, Dylan and Chris Walter are going to be there, and they're going to spread that out and cover the defense. So it's just a great position. We're just really stacked there, and Dylan and Chris Walter are shining right now.
Obviously, FC Buffalo is super team-centric. However, the NPSL still as a whole is also a very individual development league. And I think that's something that's easy to overlook, because our concept of team sports, at least with Sabres and Bills, is always team, 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 team. And it's harder to it's easy to forget that with FC Buffalo, a lot of these guys have professional aspirations, and they're going back for maybe their juniors or senior years in college. So somebody like Eric Dahl, this is a really good time for him to develop, and seeing some of the ups and downs that he's experienced this year on the field, some very high ups and some disappointing games as well. It's interesting to see his development as a player. Do you see this as a really crucial summer for him, as a chance to get better in several different areas?
It is. It's a crucial summer for all the players, especially like you said, the guys that hope to make a pro career out of this. Eric in particular, he's had some brilliant moments, and he's had some disappointing moments, but I think what he's kind of learning, especially being a college player at Marist, you're used to playing one way in Sweden, and it's a whole different ballgame here in the States. And I know it's going to be a lot more physical than maybe he's used to, especially the red card that he drew on Saturday. Mm-hmm. You might not see something like that in a league game in Sweden, but that's just the name of the game here in North America. Is you're going to get clattered a lot more, and your physical presence is going to have a lot to do with how you play, how you hold the ball up, how you win the ball, how you distribute the ball when a guy's trying to drag you down from behind. So he's learning quite a bit, and he's honestly gotten better every single game we've got to see him play.
So this is all that coming off the Kevin Kapik go-ahead goal for FC Buffalo in their 3-1 win over the Michigan Stars. But the third goal from a center back, Fox Slotemaker, whose second goal in, I think, the last couple of weeks, right? He scored, I believe it was before the Erie game.
Yeah, he scored against Indiana Fire.
Yeah. So this is a guy who gets forward on set pieces and is just very good in the box, tenacious, and a ball winner. What can you say about that goal?
Well, first of all, guys getting forward on set pieces, we're just so deep on corner kicks. We've got about 8 ball winners out of 11 guys on the field that are going to go in and cause havoc. Mm-hmm. So that was a short ball Brett LaRock played to Brian Knapp. Brian got the left-footed cross in. He found Scott Doney. Scott Doney's just, big guy. Scott 6'4", 6'5", huge. He was just causing havoc in the box. He got the flick on. The ball bounced to his feet. He swung at it left-footed. I think just from the angle that I was at, and I haven't watched the replay of that goal yet, the goalie either saved it or he might have chunked it, but either way, it landed right in Fox's feet, and Fox is there back post unmarked and just slammed it home. So just what we need to end the game. Perfect.
So after that insurance goal, there's still, I think there was 8 or 10 minutes left after that one. How did the tenor of the game change? Did it get chippy? Did Michigan just sort of, I don't know, put their tail between their legs? Well, what happened in the final 10 minutes or so?
It didn't really get chippy. Michigan still thought they had an opportunity to get in the game, and they played some pretty gutsy ball to end the game. One of I'm sure you can hear it on the replay. Our coaches were just screaming encouragement to the boys and really trying to lift their spirits end of the game. Like, hey, boys, get out there, finish the game the way you need to. Tell them where to be positionally. And I can't speak enough about the guys coming off the bench because they made such an impact on the game. Brett LaRock, BK, Rob Brandell, Peter DiLorenzo, Derek Meyer, all these guys came off the bench and brought something to the match, something positive to the match. So, we knew the starters could come off, get a rest, and that there was not going to be any letdown in the play.
Following the game on Twitter, it seemed like when BK, Brian Knapp, entered the game changed significantly. The 2 goals followed almost immediately, and this is a player who is not really accustomed to coming off the bench late in games, so talk about how he's embraced that role and the difference that he made on Saturday.
BK was coming off a little bit of a hamstring ding, so we wanted to make sure he was 100% healthy going into the road trip. But that's his game all day. He can help us keep the ball. He can help us possess the ball. We're going to spread the ball around a little bit more when he's on the field. And just in that limited role, he brought a lot defensively, too. He made a 45, 50-yard run right in front of me, just recovering, tracking down and closing down a guy, won the ball, and got going forward again. Just veteran stuff. And he's the type of character guy, too, that you hope that the guys really kind of take a look at and listen to and say, okay, he's got a little long in the tooth, sure, but he's got some of the things, some of the work habits, and some of the ethic that I need to learn from, and take that with me when I train, take that back to college, and that's what I'm going to have to use to get my pro career going forward.
On the road trip to Indianapolis, you kind of had that nice middle, the Saturday, the day off, where you guys could kind of do team things. I know you went to go watch the Indy 11 play. Yep. Are they an NASL side or a?
They're an NASL.
Yeah. So it wasn't quite that way on Saturday because you were just in Michigan. I think you left, was it 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning? Or
yep,
something
we
like
left early, stayed the night, and we left early on Sunday to drive home. So when we got there, we had an opportunity to sit down. We found a local restaurant about a mile away from the hotel. Just did a big team meal, had a little chat. The boys went out for a walk, and we got to the field early. Typically, we like to get to the field about 2 hours before the game so we can see the field, walk the field, knock a ball a little bit before our pregame activities. There was a women's game going on before that, so we didn't have that opportunity. But, thankfully, the boys didn't have heavy legs, and they came out and performed. So
I know Michigan's changed from Dearborn to Pontiac, and I don't think you guys went to Michigan last year.
No, they came to us.
Yeah. Did you notice anything particular about that organization? Sometimes when you go to, definitely when you go to a different club's home, you kind of see how other organizations do things. Was there anything that stuck out to you about the Michigan Stars?
I can answer that question in one word: no.
And we'll leave it at that. So FC Buffalo improves to 2-1-3 on the season, 2 wins, 1 loss, and 3 draws. And we're halfway through, as we said. And this is a very rapid fire, very short season for FC Buffalo. And it's crazy to think that this is our 4th or 5th show now, and we're already halfway through the year. You almost wish the season was longer sometimes because you could really get to know the players a little bit better, really sort of grow as an identity as a team. But when you look at the halfway point right now, are you happy with where you guys are? You guys are, you have 9 points. It's a 3-way tie for 5th place. It's very, very cluttered towards the top of the table. You have Detroit City FC, and I believe it's then Lansing, and then it's also 3 teams that are tied for 3rd. It's you guys, the Erie Commodores, and the Indiana Fire. those other two teams are also very hot right now as well. What can you say about FC Buffalo Start and where you stand in the table, setting yourself up for the last 6 games of the year?
Halfway through the year, I'm sure the coaches would say they're not where they want to be, but we're as a staff, we're in the mix. We feel really confident about the last 6 games. We like the way that our schedule shapes up. The only spot that I think we would have liked to pull at least one win out of our Indiana road trip. 2 wins were on the table, but it just wasn't there for us. But the boys battled back; they got the points. So those 2 points were huge, and I'm really excited to see. Erie is tied with us, like you said, with 9 points, but they've got 2 games in hand. But the rest of their schedule going forwards, it's a tough schedule. We get them one more time. Detroit and Lansing get them. And then Lansing has to do a very hard road trip midweek this week. They've got 2 games in Minnesota, and they're going to get to 6 games. So once all the teams get to 6 games, you're really going to get to a clearer look of what the table looks like. But some of the teams in the bottom half, you're already starting to see separation. So just to be in that top half and be competing at this point, we're happy. But we're not going to be happy until we lock down a playoff spot and say, we're going to either host the playoffs or we're traveling to the playoffs and we're going to compete in the postseason. That's the goal always.
What's immediately next for FC Buffalo is a 1 p.m. match on Sunday at Robert E. Rich All-High Stadium against the Fort Pitt Regiment. Fort Pitt has had a difficult start to the year. They're still winless. They have 3 losses and 2 draws. But this is an opportunity to be the 3rd straight home game where you guys draw over 1,000 people, and that must be a really, really outstanding achievement as a staff, because I know you guys have worked tirelessly to fill the stands and really draw attention to the club, and whether it was through the commercial or through a variety of other ways, it seems like you're really starting to see that reward.
We're really excited about, just like you said, the opportunity to host that many people again. From a business perspective, you always kind of take a look at the crowd number, and I was having a conversation with a guy the other day, and he said, "Wow, that's amazing." I go, "No, it's not good enough. We got to double it." He goes, "What do you mean double that?" I go, "We got to do better. We got to double it." But that said, there's always a sincere thank you to the people that do support us and come out and watch the games. I got home around 2:30, 3 p.m. yesterday from Michigan, and I went to pick up dinner for my wife and I. We got takeout from a local place, and I walk in, and as soon as I walk in, there's a guy wearing an FC Buffalo shirt. So I just I look at him, I go, "Hey, I like your shirt." And he goes, "Oh man, isn't it great?" I go, "What's that?" He goes, "No, this is like a real thing." And I go, "Yeah, it's cool, sure." And he goes, "No, like it's a real thing. Like there's a real soccer team in Buffalo." He goes, "I didn't know about him last year, but I bought season tickets this year, and I go to all the games. It's great." And I was like, "Yeah, I didn't want to tell him, stop and say, 'Hey, this is who I am,' but I just said, thanks, man. I'm glad you like it." And I think I kind of threw him for a loop when I said thank you, but you see it more often. We were at Canalside, myself and Josh Batten, one of my other co-owners, and we actually, I don't want to say accosted, but we saw a guy in an FC Buffalo shirt, and we both kind of ran up to him and we're like, "Great job, buddy. Keep it up." And he's like, "Who are you guys?" So if anybody listening, if you ever have somebody randomly thank you out in public for wearing an FC Buffalo shirt, it's probably one of our staff or ownership group. So thank you.
So I think we are headed to our first break here. I think our only break here on WBNY for the FC Buffalo show. Again, I'm Ben Sujimoto, and I've been joined by FC Buffalo co-owner Scott Fauenhofer.
That's me.
And we'll be back for the second half of the show to talk a little bit more about Scott as a person and as an owner. So we'll talk to you after the break. Welcome back to the FC Buffalo show. I am guest host Ben Sujimoto, joined by FC Buffalo co-owner Scott Fauenhofer here on WBNY. The second half of the show, we want to talk about Scott's role in the organization, and this is FC Buffalo's in its 6th year, and Scott is one of the original owners along with Nick Mendola and a couple other people. I guess, Scott, I just want to ask you, can you remind the FC Buffalo listeners sort of what the original ownership group was and sort of how it's structured now?
The original ownership group was muddled. We had a lot of guys who kind of came in, and they were helpful. They wanted to make an investment just to help us make our dues payment for the first year, and then after a couple seasons, guys with their personal lives and professional lives, they just weren't able to put the work into it that the team needed, especially as we started to grow, especially as the fans started to say, "Hey, this is something that we want to be active in." So a couple times we were just able to consolidate the ownership group as guys were able to walk away, no hard feelings. We got to the structure that we are at now with 5 guys. Myself, Nick, Josh Batten, Ray Saminsky, Donnie Kutzbach. We're the primary ownership group. We've got a staff of interns this year and a couple coaches, and that's the FC Buffalo family.
I know as the FC Buffalo organization, it's always a lot of Nick Mendola. He's the PA guy. He's the guy's voiceover you hear on the commercial. You see his face in a lot of places representing FC Buffalo, but you don't hear a lot about the rest of the owners. And I know you said before the show that sometimes that's sort of intentional, that you don't want to draw too much attention to the rest of the ownership group. But I'm interested, and I think our listeners are interested in your role from the beginning in the organization. You've said yourself that you're sort of a nuts and bolts and execution guy.
Yeah.
What has your role been from the onset? Has it evolved at all over the 6 years?
Well, it's always evolving. I always like to tell people I'm constantly learning something. I try to learn something new every day and apply it to this job. That said, my primary title is Chief Operating Officer. And that's all-encompassing. You'll see me in rooms with billionaires trying to get them to cut us a check. You'll see me down in my basement washing the team gear and anything in between.
You also represent the club a lot with the NPSL meetings as well. And that's, I think, something that a lot of fans aren't familiar with. What goes into that? I know you guys sort of get together to discuss the schedule, but also there's a whole lot of other things that need to be decided as a league. So what goes on when you go to those kind of conferences?
So every year the league has a 3-day annual general meeting. Different host cities can apply to host it. Last year it was at the New York Athletic Club in New York City. So we get together on a Friday mid-afternoon. Friday mid-afternoon is mostly for recognizing achievements of teams, honoring the champion, honoring the MPSL Team of the Year, general announcements. Saturday is, I'm going to say, the big day for the meeting. Saturday you're going to find all your votes on the bylaws and policies of the league, teams getting together with their conferences to hash out the bare bones structure of how we're going to operate this year, like how many games we're going to play, what teams are going to be in your conference, meeting ownership of the new teams. And that meeting can stretch from, I think we show up at 8 or 9 in the morning, and that can go to like 9 or 10 at night. That's a long day. And then Sunday is just a brief go over policies, any policies that we're going to change for the new year as far as game day reporting, stuff like that. Get a little meeting with sponsors or vendors that are associated with the league, and Sunday's a pretty early day, leave around noon, and go home.
The cool thing is you get to rub elbows with other owners and share ideas and really get to know just the operations of other teams. And do you have any anecdotes or any teams that you've sort of met at these meetings where either you learned something or you just developed a good relationship, or can you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you're always trying to learn something new from these guys. I love going on road trips to see how other teams operate, so we can pick and choose and steal ideas from them. But this year we were joking around, myself and my buddy Sonny. He owns the Tulsa Athletics down in the South, and we were joking, and we decided we're going to start a gang, and it's going to be called the NPSL Spirit Society, where we kind of raise our spirits through sitting through meetings all day by drinking spirits. So we kind of went through a list, and it's an invite-only crew. Right now, the members are Buffalo, Tulsa, Detroit, Lansing, and the guy from Hassenthal. Depending on next year's meetings, or even this year's league play, if somebody decides to step up to the plate and not be a plonker, they can be invited to the crew. But for now, it's just 5 guys, and we hang out and we drink a lot.
It's a pretty exclusive club. That's interesting to know. See, that's not something you'd get on your daily FC Buffalo news session for sure.
This is true.
So this is going to sort of hone in on a couple things that you really like about being part of FC Buffalo and pushing this organization forward. as part of your job, which you've said encompasses a lot of different areas like washing team kits and so forth, but also much grander things like representing the team in front of the rest of the league. What would you say is the most rewarding part of being the FC Buffalo owner? Is it dealing with the players? Is it doing something administrative? What is it for you that really makes you want to come back year after year?
It's just with all the frustrations and all, not that there's a lot, but I want to say frustrations and setbacks and things that make you bang your head on the wall. Nothing beats seeing, this is going to sound corny and generic, but like families come to our games, like kids, really getting into it. And the diehards, like when we score goals and I have an opportunity to get away, like I like to go sneak into the situation room. And I don't know if they ever see me, but I just like to get in there and jump with them because I love cheering for our team. Like our guys are soccer players through and through, but they're also, everybody on our team is a decent, good human being. So it's like I like cheering for those guys. Those are good guys to go out and support. So any opportunity we have just to say thank you to the players and fans, that for me, something simple, something humble. That's it. It's just being associated with the guys and having given something back to the city and the fans. That makes it for me.
I know the game day for the owners used to be extremely stressful, where it seemed like you were just kind of darting about, and it probably still is that way to some degree, but I feel like maybe you've got operations down to a little bit more of a routine where you're allowed to kind of take some time to sit back and watch and pick up on things, whether it's the fans or to jump in with the fans. Have you noticed that? And when you get that free time, other than maybe going into the situation room and having a good time cheering on, is there anything else that you're really able to appreciate?
No, for sure. It's always a work in progress, and it's not where we want to be, but it's a lot better than it was on day one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just getting around, the opportunity to meet people. A few of the school board members that helped us get back into All High came to our game on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So the opportunity just to see them in the hallway, shake their hand and say thank you very much, that meant a lot to us. And just to see them say, for them maybe not to realize the scope of what FC Buffalo was, and for them to walk in the stadium and say, wow, I didn't know it was this big. Like, that means a lot. So yeah, stuff like that. But just getting in, I don't know if you, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but typically, besides our players and our coaching staff, I'm the next guy in the field to go shake hands with all our guys and all the opposing players and just tell them, hey, have a safe trip home. Thanks for coming out today. Good game. That stuff like that. It's just a lot of camaraderie, and it feels great to be involved.
You guys are doing more things off the field now too. There's, as you saw during the FA Cup final and the UEFA Champions League final, you saw the Buffalo Above commercial of the For Our City, the shorter and then the extended version of this FC Buffalo commercial that was promoting it. What kind of either probably anecdotal, impact have you seen from that? Because I've heard a lot of people say, hey, did you see that commercial? And because a lot of people are watching the FA Cup and the Champions League, so I thought that was a great exposure move in terms of learning more about the team.
Well, that's another shout to one of our fans. Deb Russell's an account executive at Fox, and she's the one that really turned us on to it. So she helped us out through the process a ton, guiding us through what we need to do to get on the air for those games. And the guys from Buffalo Above just did a fantastic job. It's an incredible commercial. Still gives me chills whenever I watch it on YouTube. But that's the sort of thing that we're trying to get into a little bit more, is the way the league is moving with some of the top tier teams and where we want to be. In our business plan, in our game plan of what we want to do, is we want to have more digital content, more highlight packages, more one-on-one stuff with the players and the opportunity to see that. So it's always in the back of our head that we want to premiere that stuff, but we're starting slowly with it, and just really lucky to have a great reaction from that commercial. And
you have the inaugural, easy for me to say, Blue Collar Gala coming up. I believe it's June 28th. Is that right?
Yep.
Wow, that's a lucky guess on my part. What can you tell us a little bit about that? That's a collaboration with Big Ditch Brewing Company, right?
So they decided to do an FC Buffalo beer this year, and when I say decided, I'm sure we probably annoyed them enough to do it. But it was a great relationship from the get-go. We kind of told them what we were all about, and they're new business starting out, but they're already big, and they took to it and said, hey, that is a cool idea. So they crafted a really good summertime beer, and it's just the opportunity to go in there and have an event at their new the beer hall wing of their place is going to be just a ton of fun. I obviously encourage everybody to attend. But there's going to be, great beer, great food, a lot of prizes. A lot of local people local companies are giving off stuff that we're going to raffle off. But it's just going to be a good opportunity to, we can't sell beer at All High, but get all the fans that do want to drink to come out and have a beer with us and just have a great time. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Not to put you too much on the spot, but when you look back over the past 5.5 years, is there either one or a couple moments that stick out to you as the fondest FC Buffalo memory that you have?
The Bedlington friendly was one of the first that come to my head. Just the opportunity to see that stadium packed, all the dignitaries that were there, just the incredible support that we got from Bob and Mindy Rich. That's still something that, really, really sticks. And I still think about that and smile about that quite regularly. But there's just so many, going on road trips with the guys and getting in shenanigans and, late nights arguing with each other. But you kind of come back and say, oh, wow, this is a great idea. And, this has worked. I'm glad we fought about that. Stuff like that. It's just the camaraderie, the day-to-day stuff. I don't know, like one particular moment, just, any win is super important to us because that's just something that we get to give back to the city. So that's it.
When people talk to me about FC Buffalo, whether they've seen something that I've written or they've watched a game on either a stream or on WBNY, one of the things that they mention, and it's almost an annoying question now, is like, oh, when is Buffalo going to have a pro team? They're hearing things about, oh, MLS is expanding, oh, NASL is expanding, USL Pro seems to be growing and growing and growing. How do you respond to that when somebody says, maybe a little peskily, like, hey, when are you guys going to start paying your players and stuff?
Well, look, Buffalo deserves a pro team. I think Buffalo's ready to support a pro team. That said, if FC Buffalo is going to be that pro team, realistically, it's probably going to be in a scenario where we get bought out and somebody carries on with our brand. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. That's just the truth. We get into a spot where we start selling our stadium regularly, but that's just going to take a lot more work from us. So if people are willing to accept FC Buffalo for what it is right now, an NPSL team playing on the 4th division, then come on out. We're happy to have you. If people are just going to wait and say, well, look, I'm not interested in that level until it's professional, that's fine too. I'm sure it's going to be sooner rather than later. And, right now it's just incredible to be a part of it.
Again, FC Buffalo's next game is Sunday at 1 o'clock at Robert E. Rich All-High Stadium against the Fort Pitt Regiment. So if you're looking to attend an FC Buffalo game, that is where you can do it. I believe tickets are $8 at the gate.
Correct.
There's also food trucks there. Did you guys add another food truck yet?
In discussions.
In discussions, but
Yep.
Currently we have the Black Market food truck and Frank Gourmet hot dogs.
Correct.
Okay. So there is some sustenance there if you get hungry during halftime. Scott, I know you've been very involved in the local soccer community through various ways. You've been a player in the Buffalo District Soccer League. You've served on the board of the Buffalo District Soccer League, but you've coached in various levels as well. I know you spent time, I believe it was on the east side a couple of years ago as a coach for a while, coaching a team, and now it seems like you've taken your career outside of FC Buffalo in another direction. Can you tell me a little bit about your history as a coach in the area and now maybe what you're getting into now?
My history as a coach isn't that legendary. I spent some time with Delaware Soccer Club,
Okay.
and I spent some time assisting with friends, and going out and helping camps and clinics. Especially when I say helping, I mean bringing FC Buffalo guys just to do the work for me because they're a lot more talented than I am. Currently, I took a job with Soccer Shots. If you're not familiar with Soccer Shots, it's a national franchise. Great guy, Mark Miller, owns and operates the local franchise. Last year, he did this program called City Kickers, which is a not-for-profit that works directly with the City of Buffalo pre-K and kindergarten schools. So I think there's like 22 schools in the city that offer pre-K, and the idea is the city strapped for cash for phys ed programs. So City Kickers comes in and it offers a program at no expense to the schools, introductory soccer program. So the idea is to get the kids up and moving, positive thing for them, but also for us. We're able to collect some data, and the first year it's been pretty interesting. Just attendance rates are higher on soccer days. Attention level is better on soccer days. We have the opportunity to get some specialists in there and teach the kids about proper nutrition, UB Dental was in there to teach them, some proper dental hygiene and stuff like that. So it's an opportunity to get these kids, in front of some people that they may not have an opportunity to see, play some soccer, get fit, have fun, great experience because the kids are always leaving smiling. So yeah, that's my new gig now, and it's been a lot of fun, very rewarding so far.
It's interesting because somebody might look at a situation like that and say, "Oh, that's really awesome that he's doing something to build soccer for maybe underprivileged or schools that are in need of a helping hand," But at the same time, it's also very important to the growth of the soccer scene in Buffalo as a whole. And this is a city that is really brimming with immigrants and refugees and people who carry a pretty strong soccer pedigree over to Buffalo, and it's getting a lot of those either kids or young adults or whomever comes over involved. And this seems like it's a really good opportunity to do that, but also to develop them as human beings as well.
Oh, for sure. It's an opportunity, and it's going to take time. But if we get out there and we get in front of a preschool kid now, and we say to them, hey, here's a sport that we know that your family has grown up with, and they start playing at a very young age, and they get some I don't want to say proper training because I'm but organized training, that sort of setting, and they continue on with it because there's great programs jumping all over the city. The Buffalo Soccer Club, West Side Soccer. So there's an opportunity for them to actually get in an actual travel setting where they're playing against other organized teams and, not just their friends and families. So it's just going to be a good opportunity to get that kid at a young age, and then selfishly expose them to FC Buffalo and say, hey, look, you're a talented player, and we want you to grow up rooting for this team, but we want you to grow up with the opportunity to play for this team too. So yeah, we hope in 10, 12 years there's going to be a kid on that team that said, yes, this is where I started. This is my home now. This is my city, and this is my team.
One area that you must be familiar with is attracting a lot of different soccer communities in Western New York to the FC Buffalo brand. And that has to be one of your biggest challenges, too, because you're talking about some immigrant communities on the west side all the way down to Orchard Park Soccer Club, which is, one of the more affluent clubs in Western New York, and then extending to Empire United, which is this huge conglomerate that encompasses teams also in Syracuse and Rochester, but also has a Buffalo program as well. And then you have another thing like Blackwatch, which is not quite at Empire's level, but still hugely valuable for kids that are playing a higher level of soccer. How have you tried to, I guess, blend and attract all of these disparate organizations to the love of one FC Buffalo brand?
It's just constant conversation. We're going to be rolling out some more camps this year, so the kids are going to have an opportunity to come out and participate in those, and that it kind of sheds the idea of the club they play for, and they come under the FC Buffalo umbrella. They play for us, and they kind of get a feel for what it is. But a lot of our guys coach to supplement their income, so it's neat because kids from different clubs will come out and say, "Oh, hey, that's my coach in the field right now." So they see that. But yeah, we're always talking to them. We try to at least feature one youth team or have a club set up during each home game. Obviously when we were at Hamburg High School for our home opener, Hamburg was the club. For our second home game, Kenmore Soccer came in. And we just give them tickets to sell to their friends and families, and the kids come out and we'll feature one team to play at halftime, and then hopefully the whole club comes out, supports them, and has a great time. So trying to just rope people and get them in, the younger they are and the quicker they support us, the better long term that is for us. But it's just neat a kid grabbed me at the Erie game. He called me over and he's like, hey. I go, yeah, what's up? I was really busy trying to run around and do something. He goes, that's my coach in the field. And it's like, you're trying to run around and you got to stop and think for a second. Like, that's cool. That he was talking about Brian Knapp at the time, or was it Knapp or Bobby Ross? One of the guys. I think it might have been Bobby Ross. Excuse me. And he goes, "Yeah, that's my coach." And I'm like, "That's really cool that you can come out and see him, and see him out in the field playing for us."
You've done other things in the past too. I remember there was the city school ID camp that you guys ran.
Uh-huh.
Or it was more of, yeah. Can you explain what that was? Because I don't know if a lot of FC Buffalo fans were familiar with that.
It's just an opportunity to take the top city school players who may not have an opportunity to be scouted regularly by college coaches, to come out, put them all in the same spot, run them through some drills, run them through some scrimmages, and then we just asked from our network of college coaches, like, hey, head coaches, can you guys come out? Assistant coaches, can you guys come out? We had a great turnout. Um, and the city schools are doing great. iPrep, state finalist 2 years ago, state champion this year. It's like they have players. They've got guys coming out. City Honors always has players. Riverside has players, and it's like, they're raw, sure, but fantastic athletes, and they deserve an opportunity, because if they got in the right program, they probably could be molded into fantastic players.
You see someone like Izana Kase, who went from iPrep and is now playing at Akron and is also on the Portland Timbers U23 roster too. So you see a guy who probably was under recruited end up forming a connection through various means, through an effort of something like what you're doing there, what you were just referencing, is really good and really gratifying to see somebody in Buffalo's community go to Akron, which is perennially a top 25 team and definitely a national contender. And it's really exciting to see somebody from Buffalo's, I guess, West Side community really, go forward there.
Yeah, that's a great story. I can't say that I've spoken to Izana about it, but from my understanding, he attended a camp and just blew their socks off. And they said, who are you? Where are you from? He's like, hey, look, I prep Buffalo, New York, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? So yeah, like you said, they're under recruited, and just have the opportunity to showcase them in front of a bunch of college coaches. That's who we want. We want good opportunities for the residents of the city.
So we're heading into the final few minutes of the show, and I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about Bruce Springsteen a little bit.
Oh, great.
And I know this is definitely in your wheelhouse and not so much mine, but I'm interested in
I'm
knowing...
always happy to educate about the boss.
I'm interested in knowing your passion for Bruce Springsteen, also a little bit of the background into how you got to really, and I don't want to say that you deify him, but I feel like when you have a free opportunity, you do something Bruce Springsteen related.
Well, that's not entirely true. It's not a free opportunity because he's not on tour right now. No, it's one of those things that, the best way to describe it is go see him live. Go see him live and you'll get it. But if you get a chance to sit down and listen to his discography, to me, he's just the best American singer, songwriter, band, performer. Nobody beats him. And you go see him in concert. He's, so many concerts nowadays from touring acts or cookie cutter where you can check online now and see their set lists, and it's the same 13 songs every night. Bruce will dip into any album from his catalog, any song, and he'll go for 2.5 to 3 hours every night. And for a guy that's pushing 70 years old, just to put on that type of performance in and out, it's hard not to respect him. But when you get in there, it's maybe like the same sort of energy that you get when you're stepping into playing a soccer game. It's just nonstop, just fist pumping, having a good time. It's just great energy, and you feed off of his energy. So, love him, love the songs, love the records. Big fan. I suggest anybody, if you ever have the opportunity to see him, go see him in Buffalo. Especially his Buffalo shows are always legendary. He's always just on top of his game. The boss is the boss forever. Just that's it. I don't know. I could talk about him more than I could talk about FC Buffalo. But I did run our New Jersey players, Kevin Kapic and Robert Brandel, through the boss. I'm gonna say prerequisite. I grabbed him on one of the road trips. And I said, "Hey, you're from Jersey. What do you think about Springsteen?" And they kind of looked at me like, "What?" And I go, "No, this is a test. What do you think?" And they're like, "I like him." I go, "Oh, congratulations, you passed." So.
Quickly, what's the background for your liking Springsteen? Was it did somebody introduce you to it? How did you come upon it?
It's just the music I grew up in my household. And it's not just him. He's obviously one of my all-time favorites, but just being around the music that my parents listened to, I can say specifically, I grew up as a kid listening to a lot of punk rock music, but Fleetwood Mac, Elton John, or bands I would have never probably, or artists I probably never would have fallen into if it wasn't for my mom. And my dad my dad took me to see The Who when I was 9. That was my very first concert. So, the British Invasion kind of classic rock has always been ingrained in my head. But, it's a steady diet of vinyl and long form records. And that was my childhood. And it just stuck with me all the time. So Springsteen's always been special to me. Led Zeppelin, The Who, all those bands, just still love them, even though it's a little bit corny now, but that's fine by me.
Well, this has been the FC Buffalo Show. Thanks to Scott Fauenhofer, FC Buffalo's co-owner, for joining us to talk a little bit about what's going on with the team, but also a little bit about his background as an owner and his future endeavors that he's going into now for soccer. Thank you for joining us here on WBNY. I'm host Ben Sujimoto, and we will talk to you next Monday.